Good morning, world. Good morning, Washington, D.C. Good morning, Southeast. Good morning, Deanwood. Good morning, Chevy Chase Park. Good morning, Tacoma Park. Good morning, MLK and Marion Barry. Good morning, our brothers and sisters that just graduated from high school at Jackson Reed. Good morning to all the graduates of all the high schools in Washington, D.C. Good morning, parents and teachers. Good morning to our brothers and sisters in the faith communities, from the Muslim communities to the Christian, to our brothers and sisters from the children of Israel. Good morning to all of the workers who get up at 3 o'clock in the morning in order to get to work, starting off the 5 o'clock shift, which I used to be on. Good morning to all of our brothers and sisters working in the restaurant and hospitality industries, from the hotels to the restaurants that intersect across the District of Columbia. Good morning to all of the brothers and sisters who work to keep the nation's capital safe as members of either our police forces or our Secret Service or the security guards at the various buildings and hotels across the District of Columbia. Good morning to all of the government workers who strive to hopefully not just make a good living, which you do, but hopefully strive to make the system in DC work for everybody. And sadly, that hasn't been the case. And that is the reason why I am running for mayor. This is Talib Kareem Muhammad. I am an engineer. I am a lawyer. I am a son of activists who met here in Washington, D.C. During the civil rights movement, right after Dr. King was assassinated. I am a husband. I am a father. And I am a technology executive that has been leading a platform that helps to make people's interactions with lawyers as seamless and easy as getting an Uber. And I've also, which is my passion, led a terrific organization called STEM for Us, which is dedicated to creating mentor relationships between young people and people in the technology and other vocational skills industries as a way of steering them away from getting into trouble and steering them towards positive job experiences and hopefully even opportunities to create jobs as entrepreneurs themselves. So this is what I've been doing. And prayerfully, we're going to use the technology-driven approach that has fueled the success of our organization and our company to propel Washington, D.C. to a whole nother level. I see Radio Generation, they just gave us a shout out. They said they don't see the share button. Perhaps you can, I'm going to give you, maybe our producer can drop her email in the chat. And speaking of which, I'd like to actually ask our producer come to the stage, because our producer is an amazing young woman who I have known since I was 18 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the Miss Demisa Lady D Hurd? Can she get to the stage? I've been knowing this young lady since I was 18, a student at the United States Air Force Academy. When I met her, and she was a student, brilliant and beautiful student at Oakland University in Michigan. Tamisa, you want to introduce yourself and tell the world about the amazing things that you're doing now since we met just a short time ago. Tamisa, I think you're. I don't think anybody can see you. You're. In fact, you're.
Oh, it is.
The lighting isn't too good where you are.
I see. Yeah, well, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here to support you. Definitely excited about the direction that you're moving in the DC area. And we are hoping and wishing that everyone takes note to some of the to the platforms, to some of the issues and concerns that you have when it comes to safety, when it comes to affordability and housing. And just having that voice DC, I know you will definitely continue to make an impact in the DC area, and I'm wishing you well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you, Sister Denise. I mean, you are an educator yourself, and I would love to, hear a little bit more about what led you into education from being a student, and what were some of the pitfalls that you experienced. And I can share with you a little bit of kind of impetus, if you will, for me even running for mayor. So as many of y'all know, as I mentioned earlier, we have a nonprofit organization that is committed to helping keep our young people safe. And so the past 2 years in a row, and this organization has been around doing this work for over a dozen years, and we've helped thousands of students all across the country, particularly here in Washington, D.C. And so for 2 years in a row, our goal was to expand and scale the impact, particularly after school, because as you know, the after school hours are the most violent between 3 and 6, because students are out of school and their parents are oftentimes, for those who are in the working class, working during that time period. So the whole idea of school itself is antiquated and doesn't work for the current environment. There's no reason why students should be in a unmanaged environment while their parents are not at home and at work. That right there has to end. And under my administration, as mayor of DC, we will end this. There will be universal after school. School will, in fact, we're going to change the name from schools to workforce development centers or workforce development academies. So our workforce development academies will start at 7:30, and then for some cases 7 o'clock, and then they will go on until 7 o'clock in the evening, giving the children the opportunity. For example, those who are involved in sports will be, again, tracked to their sports activities. Those in after-school programs will be tracked to their after-school programs. Be it, perhaps things dealing with science, things dealing with vocational skills, things dealing with, arts. There's going to be homework that every child will have the ability to get help and coaching in their homework. So there will be no excuses of children not getting their homework done. And we will make sure that our children get picked up from home and delivered to home. That's the promise that I think that every city, every state should make to their families. And imagine if we are able to do this. I want to ask Demisa to come back on stage. As an educator, with those types of proposals, what type of impact do you think that could have on both student performance as well as the reduction of violence? Demisa, as an educator, can you speak to that? And you can leave your profile picture on if you like.
Well,
can you speak to that?
I guess for me, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
We can hear you.
So, people often ask me why did I become an educator? So, I became an educator because I believe education changes lives. Every child deserves someone who sees their potential, challenges them to grow and help them believe in themselves. For me, teaching has been, it's just never been about academics. It's been about building relationships, mentorships, leaderships. I've had the privilege of watching students overcome obstacles, graduate, pursue careers, and become leaders in their own community. So education is just one of those few professions where you can make that impact for generations. And now you're talking about the violence that's inside of the school systems. And, there needs to be change, right? Because just as educators invest in the future of our children, our city must invest in the future of our community. And that's why leadership matters. And that's why these conversations like this are so important.
But let me ask specifically the question of the changing the name of schools into workforce development academies, A. And then second of all, expanding the hours of the school day from where it is now, which is in many cases from 8 to 3, or some cases 7:30 to 3, to becoming 7 to 7, 12-hour blocks in which our students are able to get their meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Also able to get homework assistance. Every student after school will have a time period for them to do their homework. And then also students being able to get involved with either sports or other type of extracurricular, like clubs, be it debate club or be it culinary club or dance club, anything that again the student would be doing normally, but doing it in a structured way, and students being picked up from home using buses, which we don't have in DC. We don't have a bus system that picks our students up and deposits them back at home. What do you think about how these three, and then lastly is making the school year round, and again doing it in a way where our teachers are not basically basic on the hook the entire day. So you have shifts. You get the morning shift, you get the afternoon shift, but you don't have to again stay the entire 12 hours. What do you think about that as an educator, as an administrator, in fact?
Definitely the structures would have to be in place because, for many families, traditional school does not align with their work, with their work schedule. So extended hours could provide students with academic support, as you mentioned, those tutoring and mentors, and even those career exploration opportunities, sports, music, in those supervised recreational activities. But this is not, I guess your conversation is not really about keeping students in the classroom for 12 hours, but it's about creating opportunities before and after instructional days. And again, with the right structures in place, this could be something that could work, right? Stay engaged. The students can stay engaged within these positive activities. So I think when you see young people that have access to, and I think that word that you talk about often is those safe spaces um, with caring adults, coupled with meaningful programs, it reduces those opportunities for negative behavior. You know, students could be working with these caring adults. They could also be supporting, helping families, helping students kind of discovering their interests as well. So again, I think any opportunity that we have to invest in our youth is one of the most important investments that we can make as a community. Um, and maybe the structures, maybe it's not I just don't believe in education anything's a one size fit all, right? But this may be an opportunity that um, we can make, right? That you can make inside of your community by having those support systems in place for families in your community. That would definitely expand those opportunities for future career paths and, right, those safe spaces. I can't hear you.
Yep, I'm here. Well, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Keep
now.
going.
Oh, that's it. That's it. I mean, I just think, you know, anytime that you're able to invest in your youth, it's just an opportunity to make a difference in the community. That's basically it.
Now, can
Appreciate it.
you give us a little bit about kind of your take on the failures and the system of promoting failure in school? We talked about how at Jackson Reed High School, and I'll share this with you. Maybe we didn't dive into it yet, but at Jackson Reed High School, there was a shooting of a boy 5 weeks before he was to graduate. He was the captain of the football team, a really extremely gifted athlete, and he had won. You know, he had helped his middle school team win the state championship in lacrosse. Tossing the winning goal into the net, and he was shot by a boy who was actually supposed to be one of his friends, um, a friend that was a friend of the family. So his mother knew the boy and the boy's mother, and they got into an argument about, some type of material object, and the boy, um, the boys, him and another boy uh, beat him with a gun and then ultimately shot him, and the boy died. And the other boys are walking around both the school campus and the District of Columbia without any arrest, and everybody knows what has happened. And then the school administrator, not just again failing to protect this child again, albeit the child was shot outside the school grounds. But the year before, the same child had been beaten up by another group of boys who came into the school, who snuck into school without them being, again, a part of the school body, but was able to sneak into the school, beat this other child up, and then leave school without them being caught. And then when they finally were caught, they were not prosecuted because the prosecutor said they didn't want to give them a criminal record. And so that type of lawlessness and the idea that, children could get away with anything gave these children who shot this child the thought that they could get away with it, and they are getting away with it. And now think about it: the child who shot the other child, right, and the administrators that oversaw this conduct, instead of them being fired, the principal of Jackson Reed being fired, this guy is now getting promoted to becoming the assistant or the deputy superintendent of schools. So my question to you as an administrator, as an educator, is why is it that we are in the business of promoting failure? And I see we have another one of the DC political establishments in the background, John Capozzi. We can bring him in on the conversation as well, but let's hear what you have to say, and we'll bring in John as well.
John? As an educator, one of my great... Yes. Go ahead, Janeese. Hello, welcome.
Morning.
John?
As an educator...
I'm sorry, hold up. Janeese, we want to let you answer that question. But John, can I ask you, your lighting is kind of bad. Is it possible that you can either go to a lighting where you can put the lighting in the background? No. Oh, yeah, that's even better. But is it possible that you can actually put the lighting in front of you? So then instead of it being behind you, it can be, oh, that's much better. Okay, great. Okay, great. So we were talking about this issue of Jackson Reed, and we were talking about the fact that the principal at Jackson Reed, even though he failed our students, not just Brady, but all the students, he's now getting a promotion. And this is what we do in DC. We promote failure. And so Demisa, who's an educator, is going to give her take, and we would like for you to give your take.
I'll be brief to allow John the opportunity to speak. But again, one of my concerns is the increase in violence that's affecting young people. So we must do better at identifying warning signs, providing mental health support, creating safe spaces for our youth, but more than less ensuring that families, schools, and community organizations that we work together. We need to be transparent, and families deserve clear communication when incidents occur, but also we need to do just that, a better job at identifying those warning signs. Students do need to feel safe. Learning suffers when they don't feel safe. When violence becomes normalized, communities suffer. We can't wait until after a tragedy to take action. And I just believe that the solution oftentimes is just not more punishment. It has to be something in place, preventive measures, mentorships, early intervention. As you were mentioning, those youth programs. Every child deserves to come to school feeling safe.
And in particular, can we talk about this system of rewarding failure in the school, both in social promotion of children to promoting administrators who failed, like this administrator? He failed. How can we give this administrator a pat on the back for allowing a child to be killed and then allowing the children who killed that child to walk around the school, basically terrorizing all the other students? How can that happen? You can chime in, John or Demisa.
Well, Talib, thanks for inviting everyone this morning. I did read your email yesterday about the principal at Jackson Reed, and not quite as familiar with the case, but as you might know, I visit all the high schools here in the city with the nonprofit I work with, getting young people into IT internships. And so seeing the different schools and just how they react to, how each school is actually slightly different. First thing I would say, I agree with Dee. When I go to the schools, I can't believe how people underestimate the talent in DC high schools. We have a lot of great young people, actually. And I agree with her also on just how we need to work to help young people as opposed to punish them. We have a prosecutor, the federal side, who's her goal is to like throw 14, 15, and 16-year-olds with adults for some reason, which I find completely outrageous. And although, Talib, when you call me part of the establishment, I do get concerned because I did grow up in the 60s. So I don't want to quite get there, but I do think that focusing on young people is really important for us in the city to be able to change the direction of where we're heading to.
And I certainly appreciate that, John. But there's one thing to talk about the prosecutor, but there's another thing to talk about the principal and the establishment that continues to reward failure in Washington, D.C. Like we see children getting away with murder, and that's an issue of, on the other hand, the courts not doing their job to basically hold these children accountable, and then on the other hand, us disempowering the parents by having a system where children can report their parents for being basically too strict on them. Do you see this as being a problem? And I say that you're a part of the establishment because, as I understand, aren't you a member of the ANC or one of these other elected bodies in DC?
No, I used to be never been an ANC person, was the shadow rep here in the city back in the 90s, but I consider that quite a while ago. And in terms of the failure thing, I mean, Talib, we're going to get a new mayor January 2nd. That's the good news. I mean, we're going to get a new delegate. We're going to get some new council people. It's an exciting moment in DC politics because we are going to get some new leadership, regardless of who gets elected. And that is an exciting thing, at least for me, because I feel after 12 years, we definitely need a change. So that's what I'm excited about.
And that's the reason why, John, if I could, the reason why I was, inviting you and the reason we're having this conversation is because the establishment that has been promoting the mayoral election has been promoting that there's only two people running, even though there was, a slew of us initially running on the ballot. 7 people actually made the ballot, but they continue to still promote 2 people. And if we think for a second that any of the 2 billionaire funded candidates are going to be any different from the establishment that we have right now, we have another thing coming. And think about, again, these 2 billionaire funded and backed candidates who voted for giving away, first of all, $500 million to the billionaires who own the Washington Wizards. Both of them voted for giving away now an additional $1.5 billion to the billionaires who own the Washington Commanders. And the greater Washington, D.C. Nonprofit think tank says that actually going to go up to greater Washington, says that's going to go up to actually $6.6 billion. And prayerfully, when I'm mayor, we're going to cancel that. But $6.6 billion to the billionaires. And they voted both of them against an after-school program that would have kept our child in Ward 3 from being killed, because that child was killed at 4:35, and our after-school program would have gone to 7 o'clock. So, again, that's the only reason I'm running, because these people are bought and paid for by the billionaire and Israel First elites. So how can you be excited about either of those candidates, John?
Well, first of all, you and I are in total agreement. Giving money to these sports people is a huge mistake and not a good investment. I mean, if we're going to give away $1 billion, it'd be nice if we did something with it that was going to help people who lived here in the city, not sports owners. And so I fought against both of those initiatives. Actually, the stadium one, we spent a lot of time and effort on and ultimately failed, unfortunately. We really only convinced a couple council people out of the entire group that this was a bad investment. So that just shows you how difficult it is to fight some of these large projects. So the good news is that there is a big difference between these 2 people. And that's why I'm excited. I mean, the other candidates who are running, I actually like a couple of them. I do think it's interesting when new people run for office. Sometimes you don't win on the first try. That's why, don't give up is my best answer to that, having done this myself. So Some of the people who are running that aren't going to win, I hope that they stay with it. There's probably going to be a special election if Robert White wins next year. In Ward 8, there could be a special election there. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in DC politics, but the odds of winning the first time you run are it's difficult. So I just encourage people to stay with it if they feel that committed to public service.
Well, I appreciate the idea of, the idea of not giving up no matter what happens to the outcome. But, to back or push back off of the notion that there's some change or difference between the candidates, again, if you look at their voting record, there's no real difference. Again, you look at we just talked about the failures of these two billionaire-backed candidates, and we have dissected them and saw that they're basically two sides of the same coin that is owned by the billionaires. One calls herself a socialist, but yet she believes in socializing profits. What does that mean? That means giving away money to billionaires so they can have profits, and then not, again, the people who should have that money, such as organizations like STEM for Us, who wanted to keep our children safe. There's no difference. Both of them voted for that. Both of them voted for the giveaway for the other money to the other billionaires. Both of them have overseen a District of Columbia as members of the council responsible for budgets that have resulted in failure in education, failure in public safety, failure in affordability, failure in statehood. So there's absolutely no way that anybody can convince me that there's any difference between these failed. I mean, again, this is what we talked about in terms of the Jackson Reed situation. This principal failed his duty. He failed. He didn't keep the child safe 1 year, and he didn't keep the child safe the second year. He failed. And yet we are promoting that failure. We promote failure in school. And I tell you, there's a parent who I mentor the child. And she told me the student failed. He goes to a school outside of DC, right? And in fact, it's an online school. But despite the fact that we were trying to mentor the child didn't do the work that we had been helping him with. And that child failed and had to repeat 8th grade. But because the mother and the child felt that he was feeling embarrassed, the mother and the child came up with a scheme to say, hey, we're not going to tell anybody that he had to repeat 8th grade. He's going to feel embarrassed. He's going to feel bad. And so then they wanted me, because in my introduction of my mentee, I'm introducing him as an 8th grader. I'm like, he's an 8th grade, no problem. You know what I mean? But then the mother said, well, look, I don't want you to introduce him as an 8th grader because we don't want him to feel bad. And I said to her, look, what's the difference between what you are asking me to do, which is lie and promote the idea of failure, and what is happening at Jackson Reed, where we're sweeping under the rug a murder. This is not truancy. This is a murder. Some child is no longer living, and we want to sweep this under the rug because it might make the principal look bad. It may make the candidates running for office who are backed by the billionaire establishment look bad. It may make the mayor look bad. It may make the police officer. Brother, we have no accountability in DC. So how can we say that we as a District of Columbia should reward failure.
I don't disagree with your assessment about lack of accountability in the city government sometimes. That is an issue. But I think it's important to know that, like, for example, the two candidates, I know Janeese Lewis-George from before she was even on the council. She worked for the Attorney General. By the way, her job was youth diversion. Her job was to work with families and young people who were arrested, who got in the system, and make sure that they got it, whether it was a government program or some kind of help, so that they could actually never come back to the system. And that was her commitment to young people before she decided to run for office. I respect that a great deal. I mean, she a successful attorney. I'm sure she could have gone and made money doing something else, but instead that's what she chose to do, is to help the young people here in the city. And as far as Jackson Reed, I mean, there are a lot of young people up there that certainly are doing extremely well. Some that probably could use a little bit more help. When we get a new mayor, we're probably going to get a new chancellor of schools, which would be the accountability that you and I would be looking for in that case. And hopefully that new chancellor would hold people more accountable, to make sure that they're successful in helping our young people in high schools in the city. I mean, it's not just Jackson Reed. We have public and charter high schools, thousands of young people. I hope that we can focus more attention on them, as you said. And the last thing I would say, because I really appreciate you having this open forum, is just I've been working to get young people in this city a raise through the Summer Youth Employment Program. 16 to 21-year-olds only get $9 an hour to leave to work in the SYEP program. That's 10,000 young people. Why can't we give them minimum wage? First of all, they need the money, and secondly, they deserve it. So, we haven't been able to get that through the council either.
And you know why we can't get it, John? It's because the billionaires who control Janeese Lewis-George don't want it. They want that money for themselves. And hold on. Think about this. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Think about when Marion Barry was the mayor and how successful the mayor's summer youth employment program, not just giving children a minimum wage, but many of them were able to become GS1s and GS2s, which set them into the track for lifetime employment. And many of them are still employed to this day. And so, again, don't tell me that Janeese George is committed to the youth, because her record doesn't say that. Again, I'm a data-driven person. If you could show me, in this again, John, this is our job. We, as adults, we teach children how to be accountable. We teach them, we are supposed to be teaching them about accountability. But if we don't hold ourselves accountable, then we're hypocrites. And that is what is happening in Washington, D.C. Janeese is a failure. She's a failure. Kenyon is a failure. They're last in education, last in public safety, last in affordability, last in democracy. The only place in the country where we are a slave state, where we have the absolute obligation to have our labor extracted from us, and we have no say-so over how that labor is used. That makes us a slave state. And what do? They approve a budget that only allocates 0.002% of our budget for ending that slave state. Brothers, Malcolm X, I don't know if you remember Malcolm X. Do you remember Malcolm X, John? El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, you remember him?
Of course, I know a lot about Malcolm X, because Malcolm X and Dr. King were people that those were heroes of people. When I grew up, that's what people were talking about, and certainly seeing those people's leadership in the community, it was inspiring.
Excellent. So if you remember Malcolm, he used to talk about there being two types of servants. He said there's two types of servants on a plantation. One is called a field servant, and the other is called a house servant. He said that the field servant was somebody who is a person who works day and night. And when they are in distress, because of them being working so hard, they would pray that the plantation would burn so then they could get away. But yet the field servant, these people are part of the establishment. And because they have worked so hard to get into the positions that they're in, they, if ever a fire was to break out, would work harder than the masters to keep that fire from basically destroying the plantation. Now, John, the question is that I'm asking you, and I'm asking this to everybody, is Janeese George a field servant or a house servant, a house Negro or a field Negro? And I think that anybody can, any type of wisdom can see that she's definitely not a field Negro. She's definitely not somebody out here, working to try to keep our children safe, because she's overseeing a system that is killing them. She's not a person who's trying to educate our children and basically make them successful, because she's overseeing a system that is failing them. She's not a person who's committed to making sure that fathers are in the lives of their children, because she doesn't believe that men are valuable in a family. You look at her own campaign literature. Her own husband is in the back of her campaign information. You know what I mean? Her campaign video. The very back, you can see some men. You know what I mean? That shows you this mindset that we don't need a man is what has cost the lives of these children at Jackson Reed. The child at Jackson Reed who died, and the child of the child who killed him, they were both, again, raised in families that didn't have men. And this is what 70% of our children, Black children in DC, don't have fathers in the home, because the mindset that Janeese and Kenyon both promote is that men, particularly Black men, are not valuable and are not needed in the homes. They're not needed even in the schools, and so their only role is to be in the background and to maybe give child support every once in a while. This is what this is what DC, not even the society, this is what DC promotes. Go ahead, John. I'll let you yield the floor.
Well, I will say, Talib, I'm not an expert about slaves versus in the field or the home, except that the Republicans have said that somehow slaves who worked in the home benefited from slavery. So that's my comment there. And then in terms of, I can't believe I'm going to defend Ken McDuffie, but he certainly features his daughters and wife, in every ad that I've seen, as well as the fact that he's a postman. But with Janeese, I feel comfortable that she's someone who can lead the city. Listen, she didn't vote the right way on some issues that I care about. All we can do is hope that she does better in the future. I do think she has a great chance of winning, which is a big change. I mean, if you contrast her with Muriel Bowser, she is two different people. I mean, Muriel Bowser's not helping her. Does that tell you how much a difference there is? I mean, she's helping the other candidates. So that's what I see in DC politics. I do see some promising young people and new people that are running in this election. And I think that's going to help the city down the road. I appreciate your involvement, because any voice that talks about the issues we have, I mean, that's going to hopefully make it better. I mean, that's the only way it does get better.
I say this, John, to you as first of all, this is a
again. Thank you, Talib, for letting me come on. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, John. Again, man, we've known each other for a long time, and we are glad that he was able to come, even though we disagree about fundamentally whether or not there's any difference between the establishment candidates. But one thing that we do, I think, want is that we want to see DC safer. We want to see DC more affordable. And I think we both want to see the end of the slave state of DC by becoming a 51st state. As I said before, that's the reason why I'm running. I'm running because all of the other people, and he said this earlier, like, oh, well, we got failed by, Janeese, but I hope that she will do better when she's the mayor. This is my point. We cannot continue to reward failure. If somebody has failed you in first grade, then why promote them to second grade? If somebody has failed you as a police officer, why promote that person to sergeant? If they failed as a sergeant, why promote them to captain? If they failed as a captain, why promote them to become a chief? This is what I'm talking about. We have to end the system of rewarding failure in DC. So you have a choice. You can reward the failure, reward the being the bottom in education, reward being the bottom in affordability. And I want to break these things down, okay, to contrast. In terms of particularly first public safety, we have a mission to make DC safe. And so what does that mean? First of all, we want to address this issue, which we saw it before, about making sure that our children are picked up from school, and then also given a new school construct. We're going to change the entire construct of schools. We want to make schools, instead of holding facilities for our children while their parents are at work, we want to transform them into workforce development academies that will prepare our children, first of all, to be good members of their families. Teach them about what their role is in the society. Teach them about what their role is in the family. Teach the child about what she or he should be striving for, and that is to be married. Think about this. The most successful relationships, most successful families are led by two heads, a father and a mother. This is what the gold standard is. So should we not be teaching our children what the gold standard is and encouraging them and promoting them towards getting to that gold standard? And any society that does not finds itself with the problems that we have right now in the society, right? So I challenge you, if I'm not right, because I hate people saying I'm right, right? Even when they're not right. Janeese does it all the time. All kinds of people do it. No, they're not right. Stop saying right. It's not right. And that's, in fact, the reason why I'm running, is because you're not right. What you're doing is not right. You are failing. And so in terms of this public safety piece, with respect to the educational commitment that we have to our children, we should, one, make sure that we have a promise to pick the children up, make sure that they're safe. Second of all, that we should have extended hours. Third of all, that we should make sure that the curriculum is results-oriented, training children for jobs that are current in the workforce, not in the past, but jobs that are current and in the future. Preparing children to be husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, and what that looks like, right? Particularly the issues, which is the most important challenge that exists within marriage, is how do you address conflict? This is the number one thing that kills marriages, and that's conflict resolution, particularly over money. And if we don't teach children this at all, we're setting them up for failure time and time again, right? No, I'm not going to subsidize. I say right. You agree, you can say right in the comments. So we're failing our children. We're not teaching them about marriage. We're not teaching them about delayed gratification. We, in fact, teach that children should be involved with sex. There's a data that suggested that out of the children in DC public schools, out of the girls, that there's around, and let's estimate that's 50,000 students in DC public schools with about, and I think that the number is more, and I'm going to get that data set. But essentially 5% of the children, I'm going to get the exact number, 5% of the children have been involved not just with sex, but oral sex by the time they're in middle school. So from elementary to 8th grade, these children were involved with oral. This is crazy, crazy, crazy. And if anybody thinks that that is okay, and anybody thinks that the system that has allowed that to happen, should continue to exist, then I got issues with you. I got issues with that, and that's the reason why I'm running. So we need to teach children that that's not okay. That's not okay. That sex, brothers and sisters, as you may know, sex was invented by the Creator. The Creator taught Adam and Eve sex is a way of healing themselves because they were married by the Almighty, right? Or you might not know that. This is the fact. They were married by the Almighty. They were united by the Almighty. And so that was a form of healing. Just like we saw that Adam and Eve was in the garden, and of all the food, which also was there for healing, there was one particular piece of food which was poisonous to them. And the Almighty said, well, don't eat of that. And yet they ate of that. And so what was looking like it was good became poison. And that's what sex is. Sex outside of marriage is poisonous. This is a fact, both physically and biologically, as well as spiritually. And we don't teach that in our schools. And so children involve themselves in this, and they, again, debilitate themselves day in and day out. And the schools are nothing more than just basically, almost kind of clubs, kind of modified types of nightclubs, almost without the liquor. This is what the schools are. We need to end that. And under our administration, that's what we plan to do. Transfer them to workforce development academies that teaches parenting, that teaches successful marriages, that teaches delayed gratification, that teaches responsibility, that teaches economic development and self-sufficiency. This is what we should be doing for our children. And this is what we plan to do. Second of all, we want to make sure that schools are year-round, so that therefore the educational system, that, as you know, oftentimes in the summer, it's almost like a 50% drop in the knowledge that the child has until the next semester. We want to end that by making sure that children are in school year-round, or in our training academies year-round, so they don't have that drop. We want to also provide children who are old enough an opportunity to get jobs that they keep throughout the year. That's a part of that, again, 7 to 7 or 7 to 8 o'clock block that children are having the opportunity to be able to get employed for those that are old enough to then teach them or reinforce what they're learning in the classrooms. And then we don't have to worry about child takeovers or student takeovers of the spaces, because the children are going to be employed and they don't want to lose their employment. This is not rocket science, but yet none of the council members have said this. Not one. Not one, because these people don't love our children. They don't. I don't care what you say. Janeese George, Zachary Parker, none of them, you know what I mean? Kenya McDuffie, none of them love our children. They don't. They may love their own child, maybe, you know what I mean? But they don't love our children. They don't love our people, and that's the reason they sell us out every day. And yet people want to reward that. I say no. So look, I'm going to put into the chat here. You could go ahead and drop a donation right now. We want to get 10,000 people, or I'm sorry, well, we'd like to, before November the 3rd, when we are prayerfully going to be on the ballot, but we'd like today to get at least 100 people to make a contribution. If you like what you've heard so far, if you believe that we need to make DC safe, which we talked about by extending these school hours, by making sure that the fathers are in the homes, by making sure that we teach parenting, by making sure that we hold children accountable for their actions, not allowing them to be able to get away with murder, making sure that parents are also promoted and given the resources and not punished by being stern and firm in the home, making sure that if we've given them the resources, including a $2,000 bonus for parents whose children are not being truant, who are showing up and doing well, who are participating in parent conferences. We want to reward, and it will slide. The child misses some things, and we're going to reduce that payment. We're going to stop rewarding failure. So that is, and then in addition, we want to make sure that fathers are kept in the home while rewarding parents who are able to work out their conflict instead of basically eliminating the father from the home. We want to make sure that we also surge the number of law enforcement. There in DC, we have less than 2,000 to 3,000 active duty members. Some of the people who are on the force are not able to work because they're in sick leave. We need to eliminate that disparity by making sure that there are enough police officers, and we need to change the name of the police, to change the concept of the police from the police to public service or public safety. So we want to change and create an organization that's committed to serving and protecting the children and serving and protecting the public by changing the name of police and combining it with the fire and EMS, to making it a one public safety service. And that public safety service will have some people who have arms, and some people, the majority, will not be armed. But they'll all be committed to serving and protecting. And I think the problem of us being able to recruit will be eliminated. We're going to eliminate the requirement to have a job. Have a college degree. While you're in the service, you can get a college degree, but we don't think that college is required for everybody who works in law enforcement. It's good, but college isn't for everybody. You don't need to have a college degree to know how to deal with somebody, to de-escalate some conflict, So that's one of the things that we're going to do under the safety mandate. Then under the affordability mandate, we're going to create an app that I mentioned that's going to reward people up to $2,000 to help pay for utility bills, help to pay for rent, help to make sure that they have food on the tables. We're going to also eliminate this penalty by not paying people, giving them support when they have a man in the home when they're married. We want to be able to encourage that. So if you're married, you're going to get additional benefits, not less. Second of all, we're going to work and eliminate the tax on older properties by having rental properties, that is, making older rental properties under rent control by allowing the newer properties not to be under rent control. All rental properties will be under rent control, therefore bringing down the rents and increasing the renovations on all properties. Second of all, we want to eliminate the tax burden, the heavy tax burden on our seniors. Our seniors, when these homes increase in value, the seniors, their tax burden increases. We want to eliminate that. So no senior over 60 years old will see their taxes increase based upon the appreciation of their home. They're going to get what they call a capital gain. So their capital will increase in value, and they won't have also a tax to actually reduce that capital gain. Second of all, we want to make sure that the DC budget is working for small businesses. In the time of Marion Barry, he required that 50% of all DC contracts, so every contract that was issued, not 50%, but 100% of every contract had to have at least a 50% public or 50% local owned business. 50% of every contract had to be spent with a local business. So that meant that if a company outside DC wanted to do some business, they had to find a 50% partner in DC to do that business with. That's the type of leadership that we plan to go back to. Lastly, we want to eliminate, in terms of affordability, we want to eliminate the, again, high utility costs. We want to also address some of the issues of the workforce, particularly small businesses and nonprofits, by investing at least $100 million in providing grants and investment in startup companies and startup nonprofit organizations, those in the arts and humanities and science and technology, like STEM for Us. That's what we want to do in affordability. And finally, in terms of democracy, in terms of freedom, we want to fully fund a movement that will achieve statehood, not, when the Democrats take back over the House and the Senate and the White House. We've seen that, done that. We want to do it now. So we want to create this movement that allows us to achieve DC statehood within the first 2 years of our administration, working with the current people in the White House and with the Democrats, with the Republicans, with independents, anybody across this country who sees the hypocrisy in the nation's capital being subjected to a slave system. And I think that everybody can agree that that shouldn't happen. We want to work with them. We plan to work with them. And we plan to invest this money in a consortium of the best law firms in DC, the best advocacy organizations, lobbying organizations, public relations organizations. And I believe we will get and achieve that. We've never invested the money that's required to achieve statehood, because the people who are currently operating in DC, they benefit from there being a lack of statehood. They benefit from them being the house Negroes. So we want to eliminate that. We don't need any house Negroes anymore. We only need field Negroes, the 99%. So this idea of you being put into a position, even if the idea of a mayor in Arabic, the mayor is called the amd. The amd is the pillar. The pillar is not the roof. The pillar holds up the roof, holds up the foundation. And that's the difference between myself and other people running. They're running to get a position to be above the people. I'm running to be a foundational support for the people. And that is what distinguishes me from any other of these house Negroes who have failed you, but expect you to vote for them. So again, we ask that you go and drop the money that you might have into our secure site on ActBlue. We ask that you spread the word. Go to Talib, TALIBFORDC.com. Make a contribution. Let us work to make sure that DC is safe, affordable, and free. Every person who makes a contribution joins what we call the T-Hive. We're worker bees working, dedicating our time and our money to making sure that DC is safe, affordable, and free. We ask that you invest your time, especially now. People going to the polls and not seeing our names on the ballot. We want them to know that our names are not on the ballot because we're protesting this Democratic primary for mayor. We don't even want you to go and vote for any of these clowns on the ballot. And there are a couple of people who are not as bad as the others, but we say don't vote for any of them. Don't vote for any of them, because we want to send a message that we see that the system is rigged. We see that you all promoted only 2 people as the mayoral candidates. We see that you denied others access to, including myself, access to the debate stage. We denied us the support. You saw that 2 of them were able to raise records amount of money in one single day, and sometimes 2 hours. Over 1,000 people donated supposedly to both Kenya McDuffie and Janeese George in like 2 or 3 hours a day. And this cannot be done without any type of massive network that is funded by the billionaires. This can't. The grassroots movement has not been able to achieve that. Has not. And this shows that these people are funded by the billionaires. So don't tell me that one is better than the other. They're both the same. They're both the same owned by the same, Epstein class elites who want to basically see our families essentially dysfunctional. So then the children can be runaways. So then they can prey upon our children and literally devour them. We read the Epstein files. You can read it for yourself. They're devouring children. That's what they're doing. That's what they've done. And nobody, and these people are being promoted. This ends on November 3rd. And so you have the ability, you have the choice, you have the option to either, again, invest in somebody who wants to make sure that our communities are safe, our children are prepared for success, both in the classroom and out of the classroom, make sure that our parents are supported, make sure that our seniors are honored. Think about that, honoring our seniors. Again, making sure that there are wellness centers in every ward. There's not even a wellness center in Ward 3, the most so-called affluent ward, where a significant number of seniors live. And yet, the people want you to vote for somebody who's failed you in Ward 1, right? Over by Columbia Heights. Failed you over by Banneker Recreation Center. Failed you over by the Malcolm X Park. Failed you. They failed you, constantly failing you. Over in Ward 2, be it off of K Street or, all these vacant properties in downtown. The people who are responsible have failed you. I'm talking about vacant buildings, commercial buildings, and not doing a good job to convert those to residential, and at least residential that you can afford. Failed you, over there by their people who are homeless, who are basically out in front of some of these embassies. I saw a woman, you can check out my Instagram, who was sleeping outside the British embassy. Failed you in Ward 2. Ward 3, failed you. No senior wellness centers. Failed you in terms of the number of marijuana dispensaries near Jackson Reed, which within 100 or 1,000 feet of the school, right? Failed you in terms of, having a lack of surveillance cameras around that place where the boy was shot. Failed you in having automatic weapons fired out right in front of a daycare center, not right over there by Jackson Reed. Failed you in Ward 4, seeing again, a lot of the development happening in Georgia off of Georgia Avenue. The parking spaces have been taken up by planter boxes. They were taking up free parking spaces and replacing them with planter boxes. So therefore, you have less parking spaces and more, and you have to, because there's less free parking, you have to pay for parking, increasing the billionaires' profits. Again, that's what socializing. The person calls them a socialist. She believes in socializing profits for the rich, and that's what we see in terms of her policy. She failed you. She failed you in terms of the Ward 4. She failed you in terms of the ADA violations. There's an American with Disabilities Act requires there be access to ramps, and these bike lanes prevent access to these ramps. She's failed the seniors. She's failed the disabled. You look at under her watch was the snow removal. What? This was not they call it the snow creep. This was a failure. They mobilized the public in New York. Why didn't we do that here in DC? And that was under her watch. She was responsible for the committees that were involved with that. Don't tell me that she's going to be, one person's going to be better than the other. She's not. And that's the reason we're running. We can do better. We can, again, not fail our own ward, which is the reason why a lot of people are not voting for her in her own ward, Ward 4. She's failed Ward 5. Again, look at the numbers of, again, vacant lands in Ward 5. There was a big property off of Rhode Island Avenue. They talked about, they evicted thousands of people off of Rhode Island Avenue, evicted these from these subsidized housing about 5 years ago before COVID. And there was building some new affordable housing, and that place is still vacant. You know what I mean? Vacant. And that's what they do. They want to evict people from the housing that is affordable in order to basically make DC a San Francisco along the Potomac. So they failed in Ward 5. Ward 6 failed. Look at, again, the idea in Ward 6 in particular of how you have all this new development, all these new apartments, and how many vacancies there are in these apartments. And yet these people say that there's not enough space. They have thousands of people on the wait list to get free housing, and there's no housing. And you have all these new buildings in Ward 6 in particular, vacant. You can pair somebody there, and yet you got to invest $1.2 million on average to build affordable housing. Every affordable housing unit in DC costs $1.2 million. This is BS. Just put the people in the vacant places. So they failed in Ward 6. Ward 7, absolutely failure. Ward 7 and Ward 8 combined, there's only two places that people in Ward 7 and Ward 8 can go to get healthy food. Only two. No Whole Foods. No Whole Foods in Ward 7 and 8 in terms of large places. There's this one place I ever saw that's right off of MLK and Marion Barry, a healthy food place, really nice, Black-owned establishment. We need to support that. And under my administration, we're going to have those types of facilities on every block. We're going to invest in that type of thing. More of this $22 billion will be used to invest in healthy stores to make sure that we have them at our disposal. This is what we plan to do: make DC safe, affordable, free. And Ward 8, of course, failure. Again, 7 and 8. Look at 7, particularly the RFK deal. That's going to result in massive numbers of seniors who own those homes being displaced from those homes because they can't afford the increase in tax prices. And these people who are running against me could have voted to cap the tax increases, but they chose not to because they know that the goal is to extract that land for pennies on the dollar. Pennies. They don't want to pay for it. They want to take their land through tax sales, and we will end, prayerfully, under my administration, real estate property tax sales on personal properties. So the commercial properties, you can have tax sales, but on personal properties, residential properties, they will be eliminated. DC will have a land bank system. And so instead of the tax burden, if you can't pay your taxes, instead of the house being forced to be sold, DC will get a interest in that home. And so long as it's kept into the family, the lien will not be executed. But as soon as that leaves the family, then DC will get its money back for the taxes that were not paid. That's how we're going to keep people in their homes. That's how we're going to reduce homelessness. Again, failure in 7 and failure in 8, and yet they demand and expect Ward 7 and 8 to continue to vote for them. No matter the fact that they, in Ward 8 in particular, look at this. Both members of the DC Council, who are members of the DC Council, who are the billionaire funded candidates, both of them voted to expel Ward 8's council member. And not just expel him, but also fire all of his staff. So the ward didn't have any type of staff supporting it for when people were thrown out their homes, when people complaining about, loud parties or complaining about their children being missing, or schools failing their children, or the parents, being evicted from their home, or having high utilities. Nobody that, again, people in Ward 8 could go to for help because the current people voted to fire all of the Ward 8 staff, and for months, the ward was not represented. And then, one of them comes out to a swearing in of the council member who just got reelected by his people. And then they say, oh, well, look, she came out to swear him in. That's BS. That's BS. You fire the man, and then you come back and you want to go and try to get some type of credit because you're running for office by swearing them in. That's BS. And if anybody doesn't see that's a fraud and hypocrisy that she's playing you, then you deserve her. Honestly, we cannot continue to vote and allow people who have played us to continue playing us. We cannot allow our children to continue to be killed. We cannot allow our seniors to continue to be preyed upon and disrespected and have their homes taken from them. We cannot allow our teachers to, not have the support they need to do the job of training our children, not just to be, again, mindless drones, but to be, thinking workers in a society that is working for them. This is what we want. We want DC, which is safe, affordable, and free, period. And if you believe in that, we ask you to join the movement of worker bees, sacrificing time and money and letting people know, don't vote, protest the primaries, don't vote for at least the mayoral primary. Instead, make a contribution of $40 or $50, $51 rather, in honor of 51, the 51st state. And let us make DC safe, affordable, and free. This is Talib Kareem Muhammad. This has been our live national teach-in on the broken DC mayoral primary and what we should do, protest. Join us today. Drop that money using the link. We'll put that up here on the screen, and we will continue to work together and win together. In the conclusion, let you know that somebody said, well, how will we know that you won't sell out the people again? And I'll give you this. The reason why is because I don't worship money. I don't worship fame. I'm not afraid of Benjamin Netanyahu or Donald Trump or Pete Hegseth or whatever his name is. I'm not afraid of any of these people. The only thing I fear is displeasing the Almighty, doing something that will break my relationship with the Creator, selling out my values. That's what I fear. I fear selling out because I know what the consequences are. And so because of that, because of my faith as a Muslim, you can rest assured that I am committed to holding myself accountable to these values that we stand upon, and that you know of those values, and that you can hold me accountable to those as well. And that's what distinguished, even though Marion was not a Muslim by definition, Marion is character, not all of it, but a good part of it demonstrated what Muslims are all about, enjoining what is right and standing up against what is wrong. Amr bil ma'ruf wa anha anil munkar. That's what we do. Enjoining what is right, standing up for what is right, and fighting against what is wrong. That is the underlying construct of all Muslims, and that's what I'm about. And that's the reason why you can feel safe and affordable about, investing your time and money in our movement to make DC safe, affordable, and free. You can feel comfortable about voting for me as the mayor of the Washington, D.C., an armed, a pillar, not somebody who's going to try to, hover over you and have you kiss my ring, but somebody who's going to be there to support you, support your children, support our seniors, support our parents, support our small businesses. So that's the reason why the billionaires fear me. That's why they fought against me. And but nevertheless, we know that by working together, we can win together. This is Talib Muhammad. Let us make DC safe, affordable, and free. Peace.